Alright guys, you have been wondering how do I set up a development environment for Java. So this tutorial assumes that you have just installed Fedora. Fedora is a Linux distribution. If you need help installing that, there are a bunch of really good videos on YouTube I would recommend looking up, and I'll link some of them in the description. Um, but this is what it looks like when you've booted up your brand new computer and you've logged in for the first time. So this is what pops up. You get this window showing you some help to get started. Um, Now, what's the next step? Well, okay, so for Java, you're going to want to install Eclipse. So I'm gonna open the terminal, and in fact, you don't actually have to do this in the terminal, so I'm going to show you two different ways to do it. I'm going to show you also how to use the software application. Um, so the first time you open it, it gives you this prompt. Um, all right. And it's going to initialize the software catalog. It's going to take a little while to load. This is what the software catalog looks like as soon as it's loaded. I didn't do anything, I didn't change anything, I just let it finish, and this is what it comes up with. Um, so there's a bunch of categories here. You can go to developer tools, and you'll see a few different ones here. I'm just going to give a quick overview of what each of these things are. Eclipse is going to be the one that we're going to want to use. Eclipse has support not just for Java, um, but it has support for the full enterprise Java experience, including Maven, which we'll talk about later. It has support for C, has support for C++, has support for Python, JavaScript. Um, if you can think of a programming language that you would see commonly in the industry, you can probably use Eclipse to actually develop it. So you can click on Eclipse, and you see a little preview of what it looks like. I'm going to scroll down so you can see there are some other plugins you might want for it. Java development tools would be the one that we would want. So all I would do is click install and then check the Java development tools button. If you don't want to do it like that, or you're just like me, you know what? I'm going to show you how to do it in the GUI, just because a lot of beginners wouldn't like that. If you do it in the terminal, you're going to type sudo dnf install eclipse JDT. And I should do a and then because I like to use Vim, I like to install Eclipse wrapper. And then you type your password. You're going to type it blind because the CLI package manager doesn't check for that. And then it's going to give you, here's all the packages we need to install. This is a great example of why I love to use Linux for software development instead of Windows or Mac. There's the concept of dependencies, and you know, if you're building an application and you're doing it in a modern way, like a good object-oriented programmer, you're going to say, well, I just want to have my code show a login screen, for example. So you might do a Google search and say, hey, did someone else write code that shows a login screen? Let me just include their code in my project. So what this is showing you is all of the code from other people that Eclipse includes. Um, so, well, of course, Eclipse is going to need all of these things that start with Eclipse, but it's also going to need the Google JSON library. It's also going to need Guava, which is another Google library. It's going to also use Apache, and Apache is a big group, and there are a lot of different things that get developed by them. Of course, it's going to need Java, so you can see the Java development tools and the OpenJDK are going to get installed because those are all listed as dependencies. In order for this to run properly, you need all that stuff installed. This is in contrast to Windows or Mac, where you download a program, you run it, you get an error box, and the error box says, we can't find this program, please install it, and then you spend the next 30 minutes or whatever hunting down all the little pieces that you need. Linux, it just works right out of the box. So that's how you install it in the command line. So I'm not going to install it there. I'm going to use the graphical interface and say install. It's going to do its installation. And we want the Java development tools. And let me see, do we want anything else listed here? Looks like it's going to be fine, just the way it is. It's going to take a minute to install. While that's installing, what else are you going to want to have for Java development? Well, it depends on what you're going to do. But if you're just starting out learning Java programming, this is how you'd set up for it. And this machine is going to run a little bit slow because it is actually a virtual machine. This is not actually my computer. Here's my computer, and here is my virtual machine. You can see there are a bunch of features that they list here. These extensions, Myelin, great context hiding tool, CDT, this is support for C and C++. Alright, now we've installed Eclipse. I'm going to launch it. Let me see. And install. Oh, it didn't. Just going to check that box. It's going to install. Oh. It's already installed. Okay. The UI just didn't update. Alright, so Eclipse is going to launch. It's going to take a minute when it launches for the first time. That's to be expected. And then I'm just going to let it use the default workspace because I don't really care. Gonna wait. Yes. So it gives you this welcome screen. Now you're ready to create a project. So any normal project you would create in Eclipse, you're all ready to do it. But let's install a couple of other things. Let's install the Eclipse Marketplace. The Eclipse Marketplace is very useful. So I'm going to open the terminal again. This time I'm going to do sudo dnf install Eclipse wrapper because I want my Vim plugin, and Eclipse MPC, which is the marketplace client. And then I'm going to type in the password. Alright, now if I want to see information about the packages that I just downloaded and installed, I can do sudo dnf info eclipse mpc. And then it just gives me a brief description. It says the version that it is, how much space it takes up, which repository it got it from, and then the Eclipse Marketplace client provide access to extension catalogs. Okay, that's cool. So I'm going to exit my terminal, and then it's not going to show up here, so I'm going to go File, Restart, and it shouldn't take as long to start up this time because it doesn't have to create all its configuration files. It's still going to take a minute. There it goes. Eclipse Marketplace, there we go. So we got a new item in the welcome screen. Now if I go to the Marketplace, what do I get from here? Well, a lot of things. And if you're going to do development with Java that's beyond just what you would be doing in a class, or even if you're just doing this for a class, there are some extensions you're really going to want. And at least one of them is you are going to want to install support for Maven. So I think it's Eclipse M2E. Maven integration. That's the wrong one. Okay, so clearly you can install it through here, but I think I'm not going to do it this way because this doesn't seem very promising, and one of the whole reasons that I recommend being on Linux as a developer is that it makes a lot of this setup a lot simpler. Sudo dnf search eclipse grep maven. I'll explain what I'm doing here later. Okay, Maven Eclipse plugin. Let me see. Eclipse M2E. Okay, so sudo dnf install Eclipse M2E star. Say yes. Let it download and install. So yeah, sometimes the Eclipse Marketplace is really helpful, but in this case, it's better to just let it install via the command line. My system time is off. Just gonna that's the right time. Yeah. So if you are using a virtual machine and you install the operating system and then you pause it, it might keep the time from when you last paused it unless you set up some additional stuff. But we're not going to do that because this is a tutorial about you using it on a real computer, not a virtual one. So great, sudo dnf search maven, and I'm going to want to install Maven. I think I can just do sudo dnf install Maven. Yeah. Sudo dnf install Maven. Okay, excellent. I think it got installed already by Eclipse when I installed the Eclipse Maven plugin. So that's really nice too. Also this way, if you install via either the built-in app store or the command line, you get the benefit of whenever there's an update, you get exactly the right update. Everything updates nicely. It'll work better on your machine than if you're trying to manually install the new versions and keep up with that all the time. The package management system on Linux is really powerful, and it works very well to set everything up for you automatically. You don't have to think about it too much. Alright, you've got Eclipse installed, you've got Maven set up, that's great. What else are you going to want? Well, you're going to want to set up something for you to run Java servers, because this is one of the primary places that you'll actually care to use Java, is using it as a server solution. So we're going to do JBoss. It's going to take a minute. JBoss tools. Okay, oh, it's already installed. Excellent. Another thing I like to do, go to Preferences, General, and then go to Editors, and then Text Editors. And I'm going to say Show line numbers, because you want line numbers as a programmer. I'm going to hit Apply. And then I'm going to close the Editors thing, and then under General and Appearance, the color and font theme, I'm going to go to Reduced Palette. And I'm going to go dark. There we go, that's a little easier on your eyes. Now I can create new file, new other. What do I want to set up now? Well, I want to set up a new server. New server. And now I'm going to go to Red Hat JBoss middleware. Okay. Actually, I'm going to need to go new, I think new runtime. No, that's what we want. Basic. Okay. All right, it's going to set. This can take a minute. Just doing this, I'm going to explain a little bit about what I'm doing here. You're probably saying, well, if I want to write a server, why do I need to download a server or create a new server like this? Is this going to be a new project? Well, actually, no. This is going to give you a Java container server to use to then build your servers inside of. And I'm going to explain, I'll link to another video that I created earlier that explains what exactly a Java container is, and why you care about it, how to use it. So here we go. Calculating requirements and dependencies. This is just going to take a minute. I'm going to pause the video for you guys. Alright, so this is the next screen that it takes you to. I'm just going to hit accept and finish. And this is going to actually install all the server tools, so it's not actually creating a server yet, but this is the workflow that you're going to have to go through in order to have all of the necessary plugins in order to actually create a server. So this will take a minute. I'm going to pause the video again for you guys. Alright. It's basically finished, but now it says, security warning, you're installing software that contains unsigned content. The authenticity or validity of this software cannot be established. Do you want to continue? And of course we do. This is something you guys are going to have to get used to when you use Eclipse, because unless the content has been signed by a particular provider, or we don't have time to go into that right now, but basically just ignore this and hit OK. And then, do you trust these certificates? Check this box, or just hit select all and say OK, because of course we trust the Eclipse Foundation. Linux and Eclipse include a lot of extra security that you may not even necessarily feel like you need, but it can come in really handy sometimes. Software updates, you'll need to restart Eclipse. Okay, so would you like to restart it now? Yes. I would not recommend hitting no ever on that, just because if you don't restart Eclipse in between installations of plugins or software, you can run into some serious issues. It's not likely. I've done it without it having problems, but I've also tried to install 3 or 4 things and then restarted Eclipse at the end and found that things just didn't work properly, and I had to kind of start over and delete a bunch of files in cache and mess around a lot more with the system. So you're better off always restarting Eclipse right after you have installed a new plugin. All right. We're back. Now I can go new, other, and oh, look at this. Java EE, Eclipse modeling framework. I got a bunch of extra stuff. I can create a new Maven project. So I'm going to do new server again. I'm going to hit next, and then look at this. This is the screen that I wanted. So JBoss community, we're going to select Wildfly 10. Wildfly is a Java container server, and again, look at my other video on Java containers in order to understand what this is. So we're going to hit next. All the default operations are going to be fine. The server is local. This just means that it's running on this computer as opposed to running on a remote computer. you're going to want to select the local option, and then controlled by file system and shell operations. You're going to want that one instead of management operations. Management operations involves using the container's REST API or socket API in order to actually control it, and that's overly complicated for what we care about. And then under here it's going to say assign a new runtime, and you're going to want to make sure it says create a new runtime on the next page. So I'm going to do next. Execution environment, I'm going to select that JRE. There we go. Wildfly 10 runtime. Server-based directory is standalone. Configuration file is standalone.xml. These are good defaults. Now we're going to say download and install runtime. Wildfly 10.1.0 final. I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to hit next. It's going to ask me if I agree to this license. You say yes, sign away my soul forever, and then hit next. And then the install folder, you can put it wherever you want. I'm just going to leave it in my home folder, or I could put it. I could create a folder for it and call it servers, and then put it in there. And then I'm just going to hit finish. And then this is going to take a minute too, because it has to download a lot of data, 130 megabytes roughly. So while that's installing, yeah, this is going to take a minute. And since I just installed this Linux distribution, it's going to pop up with that notification, and if you click it, it'll show you here are all the updates your computer needs. You know, any new system is probably going to need all these updates. So once you're done with everything, you can either hit the restart or install, or you can open the terminal and run an update with DNF, which is Fedora's package manager. So I'm going to close that window for now, and then I'll demonstrate what it could look like when you run an update. So these are all your default applications. Let's see, is this still running? It's still running. All right, I'm going to pause the video while this finishes. All right, so you can see now it's populated the home directory with home tutorial servers, Wildfly 10 final. This is all correct. This is exactly what we want. You could change JREs, but I wouldn't recommend it. And you're just going to hit next. And then this screen is basically just configuring which projects, and right now we don't have any projects, but it's trying to configure which projects you're going to want to add to the server and have run on the server when it's finished. But since we don't have any, we can ignore this. So I'm going to hit finish. Now I'm going to go to Window, Show View, Other, and then Servers. So you can just type server in the filter box up here, and it's going to show you servers. Now we can see our server. Excellent, that's what we want. And if we want to create a simple application, we would just go to New, Other, and select Maven, Maven project, Next. Next. And then just continue with that. So I'm going to leave it off here, guys, but there you go. You're set up to work on Java. And that's that's all that you really need to do when you have your new computer. So yeah, when you're done, just make sure you go here, go to the GNOME software, click on updates, and hit restart and install. And yeah, there you go. All right, take care, guys. Have a nice evening.